the Iron Eagle vinyl just for Ian today.
Oh,
just,
yeah. And when you popped on, you were listening to it. I do appreciate that.
So.
Let's see. We have the we do have the old IMDb pulled up for this episode, and I think we're live. I see we've got a couple of viewers. So thank you everyone for joining us. This is What If We Talked About What If, and we are of course talking about Marvel Disney Plus's What If, which episode 6 debuted this morning, and I'm sure we all got up early and watched it, or in Don's case, he watched it minutes before jumping on with us, so it's fresh in his mind.
Correct.
So we'll have different degrees of remembrance. So I am here with several of Earth's Mightiest Critics. We might even have another joining us in somewhere in the hour or half hour, 45 minutes, however long we talk about this episode. Let's go around the room before we talk about what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. Wow. So I am, of course, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Mark the Movie Man from Special Mark Productions. We have Don Shanahan with the ever reliant pointing finger of 25 years later, and every movie has a lesson in Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. We have Mike Crowley, also 25 years later, getting up close to the camera, and you'll probably agree. So welcome, gentlemen.
There we go.
Yeah. No, you're still not. No one gets the pointing right, at least from where I'm sitting.
No,
I was gonna do this.
All of our perspectives are different, so that's
and that's what I love about this show.
Right is opposite on the camera,
just like all our opinions on the show. Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
All right, so we'll see how unified or not unified we are tonight. I'm very curious to see what people thought of this episode. It's a very, very odd one.
I agree.
And let's start off with a synopsis. Don,
okay,
you just watched this, so I trust you to tell us what happened.
So, guys, there's this moment where so this is a tangential kind of future. If Killmonger was there in Afghanistan, the Kunar province, to rescue Tony Stark when the shit hits the fan during the Humvee attack before the Ten Rings ever finished the job of apprehending him, by being liberated and freed, or rescued, I should say, by Erik Killmonger, Tony Stark never becomes Iron Man, and is very enamored with just the precision and heroism of Erik Killmonger, decides to add him as his chief security officer. At the same time, the Obadiah Stane thing doesn't work out, because that's who we all know was the puppeteer of the things that were supposed to happen in Afghanistan. So with Tony not becoming Iron Man and not really going in that direction whatsoever, and kind of sticking with the weapons business, only weapons more towards fighting the enemies that try to get him a little stronger. And now you have a pusher like Erik Killmonger there to kind of be like, yeah, let's just go do that sort of thing. He becomes a man who is just, raising the stakes farther than where he already was. At least that's for Tony. And he gets himself in bed with Erik Killmonger. Not necessarily in bed, because Pepper Potts is still in this episode, which is very sweet. And they don't really get in bed, but we always wish. But in the meantime, but this is really interesting, because we see a side of Erik Killmonger we got teased with in Black Panther, that he is smarter than the average bear and has political mindings in mind, in terms of being able to kind of do the long game of getting into a place and infiltrating different levels of acceptance and trust and leadership. And boy, he takes this all the way to the top in this episode, in terms of and he does not care what body count follows him behind him, and because he has it in mind to take this long game of being elevated by Tony Stark as a means of getting all the way back to the top of Wakanda.
Very well done, sir.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you guys should just watch the episode too.
Just finished that.
Yeah.
Well, let's go around the virtual table as we always do, and just get some high level non-spoilery opinions, and then we'll turn on that old spoiler banner and dig right into it, because there's a lot of meat to this episode.
There is.
So Don, what did you think of it?
I really dug it, because I liked the character study and the kind of, I don't want to say it's a whodunit, because it doesn't play like that at all. Although there's definitely stakes, and like I said in the synopsis, body count. But I really enjoyed watching this character, how far and how willing he was able to bore in and root into all the different high-minded places, and the hero, like how well he could dupe everyone, and not just dupe everyone, but truly infiltrate. And I was just impressed about how far they took that character in a what if style of a tangential thing, because we've said this all season. How in the heck can you fit this in 30 minutes? And yet this has the dominoes falling just right to really show this character more than what we saw in Black Panther of how deep he could really go with not just his skill, but his intellect and his influence. And I don't think we got that a lot in Black Panther. I think the Erik Killmonger we get has shades of that because Michael B. Jordan's a very good actor, but at the same time, brawn is the number one, the fruit forward trait of his wine. So to see him put the intellectual angles in was really cool.
Definitely. How about you, Mike?
I wish they kind of had one thing. I'm not going to give away. We don't have to click the button yet, but I wish they did one thing with the story, but I liked what they did with Killmonger, where you see what happens, if the villain is sort of victorious here. And they play that angle up, and yeah, you get to see how much more cunning and intelligent Killmonger is. I like how this show kind of ends on more of a hopeful note than the last two, but it doesn't feel too tacky or anything like that. And yeah, essentially, if you want to know what would happen at the end of Black Panther, things didn't work out and Killmonger got his way. Well, this is one of those scenarios where you could see sort of the full, like, although he's a sympathetic villain, it's kind of like you lose your sympathy for him in the end, and that's intentional. And I like that.
Yeah. Before I get to my thoughts, because I want to let Mark go. I mean, that is one thing I think this underscored is, although I do appreciate what they did in Black Panther, Killmonger should have been much more than a one and done villain.
Agree.
I would almost like to see a full Killmonger series if they did like a what if alternate timeline, just have like movies or another TV show just, with him as a focus, or at least as a main nemesis for T'Challa, because I think that was a missed opportunity. But yeah, Mark, go ahead.
And I know there are exceptions, and I'm not saying every film, but Marvel does have that problem of the one and done villains, even in the MCU especially. You get some interesting villains, but again, they really focus on the heroes, and that's what I liked about this, was that T'Challa had his movie, and we got to learn about him. Here, we're getting to explore Killmonger, who he had to share time with, T'Challa in the live action movie, and they could have done more with him. But if you look at a lot of the other villains in the MCU, especially the first three phases, he's a bad guy. That's all you really usually. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I know there's some exceptions, but really, I mean, you look at a lot of those villains who are actual villains. I'm not including Loki in it because Loki is the gray area, but the true villain guys, they're usually kind of one and done. You're okay. You don't really explore them. You get a little bit more equal time in your villains. Pardon me for bringing it up, but DC, some of the films, even though they're darker and people don't care about them, one of the things you do have to appreciate is they do explore the villains nearly as much as the heroes. In fact, more so, because they're counting on that the hero. I mean, the hero's story versus the villain. And a lot of times with the DC universe, the villain makes the hero. However, the villain is actually makes the hero better. And it was great seeing this episode where we got to explore the Killmonger character. We learned a lot more because he seemed far more wily, far more elevated as far as his planning than he did in the movie. In the live action, in all honesty, he just came out as kind of just a straight revenge. He just, I mean, his motivation was kind of one note, one beat kind of feel till you get further into the movie, but by that time you're like, okay, so here, he gets his moment to shine. I thought it was interesting just where in the timeline they do their scenes, and I'm not doing spoilers, I'm just interested in where they went with the story, and I liked that different settings exploring that. So yeah, I mean, I dug it. Again, we won't get too spoilery yet, but the ending, similar to last time, last episode in many ways,
Mm.
versus the previous versus the previous episodes, which kind of had a boom bookend.
Yeah.
I have some problems with the way that this episode ended, but you know, we'll get into that. It's I will give some just high level thoughts. I thought there were some really cool ideas in here. I did love the character. I love the fact that Michael B. Jordan, unlike some of the other celebrity voices we've had, really seems like he was playing the character instead of just performing in a booth somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought that was
There
really
was one line when he yelled Wakanda forever where I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And he says it, and they copied and pasted the same file twice.
Probably on that one, yeah.
I could almost and I'm gonna step around a spoiler here. I could almost forgive that because when Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa yells Wakanda forever, he means it. He's this is like the embodiment of his people and his culture and his country. Killmonger has a different motivation. So if his heart isn't as in it, or if it seems a bit more performative, I think that's fitting here.
Okay.
So let's just get this over with. We're going to talk some spoilers here. Let's start off. I don't know if this is a problem with me. I'll probably say it's a problem with me, or if it's a problem with the show. But Tony Stark.
Yeah.
We begin with the opening of Iron Man when he's the jagoff corporate guy. He's a genius and he knows it, and everyone's kind of kissing up to him and he thinks he's so awesome. His caravan gets ambushed right before the Stark Industries rocket explodes in his face, thus leading him to become Iron Man essentially. Killmonger steps in, intercepts it, and throws it off into the sky like the Hulk. But we see a lot of this version of Tony Stark throughout the episode, and it was so jarring, partially because of the characterization, and partially because whoever they got to do the voice, I mean, it wasn't Robert Downey Jr., but the way I wrote it down in my notes is they got an impressionist as opposed to a sound-alike. This sounds like a guy at a cocktail party saying, I can do a Robert Downey Jr. This is like, that's his whole like semi-bougie, boozy, not bougie, but maybe a little bit of both.
I was gonna say,
they both
nail on the head there. Good job.
It sounded very shticky, even in the moments where he was supposed to be, have a bit more gravitas as he realized that the situation and the wall is kind of closing in. I was like, just, give RDJ another $1 million to come in and record for an afternoon.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think that was Gwyneth. Was that Gwyneth Paltrow playing Pepper Potts? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I didn't see her in the credits, and she kind of had the same problem as whoever did Black Widow a few episodes ago. The affect, because they're trying to do like the tough like soldier lady, even though Pepper Potts isn't a soldier, that her affect is so flat that it's practically indented. And I'm like, that is not the Pepper Potts character that I've seen in the Iron Man movies in the MCU. She's a businesswoman and she's very, tough, but she also has a bit of personality, and that didn't come across at all in this episode.
Yeah, just like when they had someone else voiced Spider-Man in the zombie episode, you can't tell because Tom Holland's voice is pretty recognizable at this point with the characters. He's a bit like Toby's. He has Toby's nasaliness, but he a little like less like a puppy dog mixed with a bunny rabbit.
True. Now I'm picturing puppy dogs and bunny rabbits. Here we go.
That'll be in the Peter Porker What If.
There we go. Yeah.
Spider Pig. What if?
Yeah, but fortunately, it is a Killmonger centric episode. So, and I wasn't a fan of the guy who did Obadiah Stane's voice because again, just give Jeff Bridges a ham sandwich to come in and record for 10 minutes. But it's fine. They brought the characters back.
Reasons probably for not.
Yeah, he laid up with cancer right now, or just got to remission.
Does he? I missed that.
He's not
story.
in the best shape. Yeah.
Wow.
Or he's in remission now, but likely a year ago when they filmed this, he was not doing so hot.
For crying out loud, how do I not know this? It's like Norm Macdonald. Like I feel like I'm the last person to know. R.I.P. Norm Macdonald, by the way.
Yeah.
We lost yesterday. But
Turd Ferguson. Okay.
Turd Ferguson. Yes.
That was my fantasy football name one season, was Turd Ferguson. Good
wow.
time.
That sounds like a crap season.
It was.
Yeah. But no, so yeah, well, the voice acting, I think the fact that it is a Killmonger centric episode, so we spend a lot of time with Michael B. Jordan, who is he's carrying all the water in this episode and doing it so well. I didn't mind so much. But yeah, the Killmonger we get here is a master manipulator. He's infiltrating Stark Industries, the federal government, and the nation of Wakanda. It's a brilliant kind of plan that only sometimes reminded me of, Star Wars Episode 1. Like the whole, like the battle bots and the shields and, all that other stuff, the remote drones, but, and the fighting in the field. But, yeah, other than that, I think it was fine up until the very end, where I feel like this is one of those episodes that needed to be an hour, or maybe just Marvel's done this with some of their other shows, but not really with this animated thing. They seem stuck on it's going to be 30 minutes or 27 minutes or whatever, possibly because animation is, I imagine, much more expensive to produce. But if this had an extra 10 minutes to breathe, I feel like the two climaxes that we get would not have felt so tacked on, because essentially Killmonger takes over Wakanda and he's got all this tech, and then General Ross is like, okay, we've got to Pepper's, chagrin. He's like, okay, we've got essentially Wakanda, aka like all of Africa, surrounded, because I feel like to get to Wakanda, you've got to just like, swarm the continent with destroyers. We're just, we're ready when they are. And then you cut to Pepper going to a conference room, and Shuri somehow, because she's amazing at everything involving science and technology, has gotten her way into that boardroom, and all of a sudden they're going to girl boss world peace, and then it comes to an end. I'm like, I don't know.
Boss world peace. I love that line.
Yeah, I don't know what I just watched. It was like, we have to end this somehow, but why can't it just be, much like we saw with the Doctor Strange ending, like the world is screwed?
I think because they had two in a row now with Doctor Strange losing his girlfriend and then the zombie apocalypse taking over, they're like, we can't keep everyone sad for this long. Two sad, one happy,
Yeah. And it's like, timeline wise, this is like 8 years younger than Shuri in Black Panther.
She's
Shuri.
like 12 years old.
Yeah, and she can book a flight out of Wakanda, show up in a boardroom in Malibu, and sit in a chair too short. And I don't know how that's the Shuri we get. Too weird.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, like, up until that point, I appreciated seeing her as her little 12-year-old self or whatever when she's in Wakanda with the people who are calling the shots, and she's like, contributing and all of that. But that last little stinger, if you want to call it, was just kind of strange. Even if they don't want to end it on a down ending, they could do it like, I don't know if you guys ever watched Star Trek The Next Generation, but there was the episode where Picard famously got taken over by the Borg, and it ends on this cliffhanger where it was between seasons, but Commander Riker is like, fire, and then it cuts to black. He's like, he's our beloved captain, but he's captured by the Borg, so we're just going to destroy him. That isn't so much a down ending as it is a cliffhanger, a what if we imagined what happens next, to be explored later, or just in the confines of our imagination. So that's where I would have liked to have seen the episode go. But for as dark as this thing is, there was some real amazing action and cool intrigue in this. That Wakanda fight, even though they were fighting these giant faceless drones, was so thrilling. It was like that moment
night
where
in the shadows. Yeah, it was cool.
Right, is the zombie episode where was it zombie Falcon got sliced in half. It's like that moment of coolness carried on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, because the nice thing is with the animation, visually, you can do a lot more. Because I think when we've seen, for instance, the final fight in Endgame, we're so connected with the live action material that when we see like an animated version of all these hero moments, it doesn't stand out as much. But here, you can really kind of see the comic panels coming to life on the screen. Like there was a particular shot, and I can't remember most of the Wakandans' names, other whatever, but like one of them was stabbing one of the robots, and it had sort of like this very Kurosawa-esque, like darkened background. It was beautiful. Like you could have just grabbed a still from that, and it would have looked better than most of the live action moments. I think that's why that action particularly worked, because that stood out to me as something where like, yeah, that looks way better than the CGI mess you see in most of these movies, which is funny because this show was probably made on a computer, but still.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, while you're rolling, when we were doing the spoiler-free high-level thoughts, what was that scene you wish wasn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish
or was missing. Well, how did you frame it?
I was hoping that, because it was I was hoping that we'd see what would happen if Iron Man like basically became evil, or like a warmonger with Killmonger, instead of like, oh, he killed him, now we're gonna see like Killmonger become a bad guy. I kind of want to see like what would happen if Iron Man like had good intentions, but then Killmonger kind of convinced him to militarily control absolutely everything.
Okay.
That,
I would
file that as an idea for a future episode, because that's really good. What if Tony Stark was the instrument of destruction instead of the puppet master for good? Yeah. Wow. I want to ask, there was some bizarre, I don't want to call it cultural commentary, but it reminded me of what I thought was so interesting about the Black Panther movie, which is essentially T'Challa and also the royalty of Wakanda spend most of that movie sort of being the bad guys. We've got, we have this extraterrestrial natural resource that has allowed us to build the city of the future and a futuristic society, but we are hoarding it to such a degree that we've built an invisible shield around our culture, and we're not sharing with the rest of the world. Killmonger, who is an outsider to this culture, but he has ties to it, is like, no, we need to let everybody know about this and, bring Wakanda onto the national stage. There's this weird kind of like a black nationalist sentiment that T'Challa and his family have to kind of overcome by the end of the film, to embrace societies that they partially with good reason feared and were skeptical of. And we got a bit of a taste of that in this What If episode from a few shows ago, where T'Challa's dad was like, yeah, I've been out there, there's nothing good. I understand that sentiment, but in this episode there's a scene where Killmonger, right before he kills Rhodey, oh my god, he says, why are you wearing the outfit of your oppressor? And Rhodey, essentially says, you got to work within the system to improve it. And that called to mind this kind of question of, if the reality of this Marvel universe mirrors our own to the degree that there were still slaves brought over from Africa, what the hell were the Wakandans doing during this entire time? Are they partially responsible for that oppression because they're like, we know what's going on outside this invisible barrier, but that's y'all's problem. wish the vibranium had landed closer to you. I'm sorry.
That's a David Foley question. Like, when did Wakanda establish? Like, obviously they've had several generations of warrior kings, and the invisible shield probably hasn't been up that long. They've just been very, very rural. That's a good question. It's a good question.
Because I thought the vibranium thing landed like
centuries
of years ago or something like that. Yeah. So I would imagine that's before the founding of America.
Yeah.
But these aren't things that are necessarily, I don't think, meant to be brought up as themes in the writing. It's just that I'm thinking about, because I'm also thinking about like world history and geopolitics. And I thought it was a very interesting tack for the first Black Panther movie to take, which is the guy is the hero, but for most of the film, he and his people are kind of acting questionably, but by the end of it, he's solved a number of problems, including their sort of isolationism, which opens up all sorts of possibilities for the MCU. We get shades of that in this movie, or this TV show.
Yeah, it seems to be a habit of many a character in the MCU. I mean, look at your Eternals coming up. I don't know too much about them, but the one stuff that I read, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of that going around where, we could help you, but nah, you guys are just like a bunch of primitive, you guys just couldn't handle it. Here's a morsel. There you go. I'm done now.
That's my main point of curiosity with that movie, because when the first trailer came out, that was the question that lit up the internet. Like, where the hell were you during Thanos? Sorry, Don.
I know, it's okay.
But so they released a subsequent trailer, which you could tell it was like Kevin Feige saying, answer this question, because I'm getting my inbox is just blowing up and people on YouTube hate me. It like opens with, we never acted to help mankind because the threat wasn't great enough, despite the fact that it was a big threat. It was still small potatoes compared to what's coming. I'm like, all right, I get it. But then, sorry, Don, maybe earmuffs, but I'm seeing glimpses of whatever it is they're battling. I'm like, giant golden, like, craft store space dogs? What is this?
Giant golden craft store space dogs. Sign me up, I'm in. Let's go. No trailer needed.
I'm just saying
they're fighting gigantic animal crackers.
Right. November. Let's go.
There you go.
I'm telling you, that intrigued me to see the Eternals more. I'm like, wait, how is this big, a worse threat than Thanos?
But that's been a theme in like sci-fi and other things too. It doesn't bother me too much with it. I mean, it's a common theme, and it's very evident, like you said, with Wakanda and like Eternals and that. But that's always been of, how much power do you want to, or how much knowledge do you want to give these rather emotional beings that are humans, who tend to fly off the handle, conflict with each other often, and take whatever advancement they have, and rather than improving it and working together, tend to use it against one another. I mean, that's always one of that theories. So I get what you're saying with Wakanda, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but think about humans in general. I mean, yeah, it is a I guess I wish you guys would have shared this technology. At the same time, I'm like, most of those folks that you would share it with, especially if it got out, wouldn't have the discipline to do what would properly needed to be done with that technology. And we actually see that here with the episode with Killmonger, in that he takes this technology with this drones to where, yeah, you could change it, to where you don't have human soldiers fight. You just have robots on robots. But he takes that and he turns it against the Wakandans.
Yeah.
And, he takes the advancement that could help the world, because he's a smart guy. He's showing he's on, concepts and stuff that Tony didn't even think of. He's showing it here. And you're like, that's awesome. They're working together. And then he offs Tony, because he's building these robots not to improve and save soldiers, because he is Navy SEAL or whatever. He's using it for revenge, so he could go take over Wakanda and possibly the world from there. So, there's that thing of using the advanced technology for good versus evil. And there's that cheesy line that runs through your head that you've heard everywhere from every Spider-Man, that shows up just about as much as the death of the Waynes is, with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, that is a theme. And you have that here, to where Killmonger is using this power. This guy could really do some good. He is so driven for power that he does take those advancements and turn it, basically against itself.
Yeah,
it's proof why the Wakandans really never gave vibranium to anyone else. Because look at this guy; he grew up around people, and he uses it to become a dictator.
Well, but that's the thing. And we have some comments I want to get to in a second, because I didn't have that tab open because I'm, tired. But no, the idea, though, is whenever David Fowley, who, by the way, congratulations. The reason he's not here tonight is he's celebrating a very special milestone. So good on you, David. Congratulations. But he is in the comments somehow. I assume he's waiting for a reservation, or maybe he's in the bathroom, in which case wipe down your phone. But no, I would rely on his expertise, because what you were saying, Don, earlier about where the vibranium comes into the Wakandan timeline. Yeah. What we see in Black Panther is ostensibly, that's like 2017, technology advancements. It's a futuristic city and weapons and vehicles and stuff. I don't know how long it took them to get that far, but let's just say they had something, ahead of its time back 300-400 years ago if they had prevented, slavers or other Africans from selling their countrymen into slavery, if they had stepped out onto the world stage, it's entirely possible. Talk about what if that they had become the dominant global power, because the weaponry and technology the vibranium granted them would have far surpassed, people on like, oh, I got this big ship and we've got cannons. Wow.
Yeah, and smallpox, right?
Yes, right. I'll see your cannon and raise you a sky beam.
Right.
So yeah, just all these crazy questions that we could get into. But first, I want to we got to go in order here. Miguel Salazar, Miguel, my old art school buddy. Thank you for joining us. Two-parter would have been nice. I agree. This is something I've been thinking since day one. Wish the other Marvel characters would appear other than just the movie heroes. I'm wondering if they'll do that in a season 2. Like if season 1 is kind of like, here's everybody you know and love. We're gonna blow it out and give you some characters that you don't know. That'd be fun.
I don't think they do it in an animated thing.
The tough part,
they want this so connected to the stuff that everyone sees and loves, that without an existing actor that's your template for Reed Richards or whoever you want to bring in here, they just won't. Not a chance.
Yeah, I don't think they want a Perry chick like they do with Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The toughest part with doing characters other than the movie characters is now you're making a series, and no offense to anyone, specifically for the comic book aficionados who know the history of those characters we have not seen presented yet in the films, because you're looking at a what if, and so it gets the feeling like these what if episodes are kind of supposed to be like they're big, not big revelations, but holy cow, here's characters that we grew up, some of their demographic over 10 years, we've grown up with these in the movies, but now here they're in a completely different situation, but you're familiar with them, so the different situation has more impact. If I saw, say, a character like my son continually brings up Big Wheel, if I saw Big Wheel show up and they did a what if Big Wheel was a hero, I wouldn't really care, because I'm not familiar enough with the backstory of that character, much less who he really is, to know why this what if should mean something. Whereas these other what ifs, even as poorly as some folks feel they're written, I think they're made to have that impact of, hey, here's a character you love. Guess what? They're bad now. Well,
here's the thing, though. Like, to Miguel's point, I don't think that you necessarily have to make a Big Wheel centric episode, because I agree that would just be weird. But you could have a situation like, what if Spider-Man did whatever, and then you have Big Wheel show up as a character in the show.
Yeah, that way. Yeah,
you've got that. Dazzler showed up for a brief moment in one of the terrible X-Men movies, but but that kind of a thing. Dig into your rich back catalog and have them populate as characters. Maybe I keep bringing up these things that have already sort of appeared, but like a true version of the Hellfire Club. Maybe they're just in the background, or they are a threat that, someone has to go deal with.
I'll take some name drops. I mean, maybe you don't, draw the characters and try to composite what you don't have from live action stars to reference back to, but take some name drops. We've got, Marvel used to do the name drops where Stephen Strange was mentioned 4 movies before he ever came out, stuff like that.
Just going to say that, from Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier,
and that was almost like the Easter egg hunters, because it was that one stooge from
like the Hydra Senator, right?
The Hydra, yeah. He was like just rattling off names of people that were on that hit list. Okay, so David agrees. It felt like a tacked on ending, tacky and tacked on. Vibranium has always been a natural resource of Wakanda. Now, here's a question, because Miguel is saying 2.5 million years ago is when the guesstimate vibranium landed on Earth. Now, here's my question, because I have not seen Black Panther in a while, although I own it. I should go watch it again. The stuff that gave Black Panther his powers, that sort of mystical purple thing that rejuvenates the body and kind of like calls the next Black Panther that we saw Killmonger get. Is that vibranium, or is that something else? And vibranium is the stuff that's the natural resource that just happens to be in Wakanda. Are we dealing with 2 mystical elements here, or is it vibranium?
I think it's
many forms.
It's fallout from it. It's kind of like, how you have a mutant plant after Chernobyl sort of thing. I mean, only instead of my understanding with the limited, viewings of vibranium, the impression I got from Black Panther is it's a result from the energy that's given off by vibranium ended up causing the production of these flowers that have the special residual whatever because of vibranium. So it's kind of like refined energy from the vibranium that has gone through this plant, and this plant has absorbed it and really pulled out the pure form of the energy, which can be actually safely consumed, usually by people.
And I think, because to David's point about vibranium has always been a resource of Wakanda, I'm wondering if that's from the comics mythology, because I remember from the movie they made a big point of like this thing landed or crash landed in Wakanda, and that's they've been living with it ever since. So I don't know if they retconned it or what, but
they might have moved up the timeline. But the impression I got from the movie as well is that the vibranium helped advance them, not just technologically wise of having something available, but the people around vibranium actually advanced quicker,
which would explain, certainly with the Black Panther, the super strength and all those abilities and stuff. So I really liked again the fact that we got another Chadwick Boseman performance, even for just a couple of minutes in here. And his nice turn in the zombie episode, he was one of the highlights of that. Just again underscores that this was not the T'Challa we saw in that what if Star-Lord was really T'Challa thing. Totally different character. I'm like, I love this, the kind of dignified, tragic version of T'Challa we see in this episode, kind of haunting Killmonger and saying, well, you're going to pay for what you're doing either in this life or the next. Is kind of eerie.
I had this funny thought in my head when I was walking home. Like, God, how unfortunate would it be if that zombie episode was Chadwick Boseman's last performance and his last lines of dialogue were like, but that's a very morbid joke. But I did like the fact that it was interesting to see that Chadwick said, hey, these are the consequences of your actions. This is why you see why he was the Black Panther. He believed in a force of good and what you could do, and you could see how he could handle that kind of power and not want more. That's what really kind of showed the sort of real philosophical difference between the two.
There's some really good character stuff in this episode.
Definitely.
All right, so here we come, the Davipedia. David, seriously, if you're like out somewhere, just jump on. You've got the link. No, long thought by the people.
This is pillow talk right here. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Long thought by the people.
It's the meme where like, what is he thinking about right now? The laying in bed meme right now, and and David's over here on his phone texting all this Wakanda shit to us while Liliana's over there just kind of kicking it,
we're talking about vibranium, and that's as far as I'm going to take it. All right, long thought by the people of Wakanda to be a gift from the panther god Bast. The heart-shaped herb has been found to be a plant mutated by the meteorite of vibranium that landed in Wakanda. Okay,
who's aroused right now? No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely me. All right, this is a good question for the group from Miguel. Is Killmonger gone for good, or is he going to be the new Black Panther? This is the perfect opportunity to explore
multiverse here, right?
But to explore what Mike, you had hypothesized. What if there was an evil version of Iron Man? What if there's an evil version of Black Panther that has the technology of Iron Man at his disposal?
Oh, everyone can have an evil twin. They could do that with any of these things. I just hope they don't abuse that. But it's because we saw like, what if Black Panther's evil? What if Iron Man's evil? It's got to work within the narrative.
Here's how you make this episode really, really weird. At the end of it, and it wouldn't make any sense except to be like weird catnip for fanboys, of which I would have exploded. What if Killmonger at the end had decided, all right, I'm going to take over the planet. I need to make a new, costume, a new identity for myself. And he forges this mask out of metal, and it's the freaking Dr. Doom mask.
Now we're talking. Latveria comes home.
It's Wakanda.
I would love that. Be awesome. Oh man.
Now that would bring in the Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But
not
Marvel-
necessarily.
Not necessarily, but
No.
You don't even
it
have
should
to
be-
call him Doctor Doom. It'd just be recognizable as that
Mhm.
mask, you know.
mhm.
Now I'm
So
just
people
thinking
are
at
like,
some
"Is that
point in the
Dr. Doom?"
multiverse, the Fantastic
Yeah.
Four from the I can't remember the director's name, but the movie that failed horribly.
Tim
Roger
Story.
Corman.
Oh, the
yeah.
Corman one. Yeah.
The Corbin 90s. Yeah,
No,
fantastic.
the one after that.
The one after that. Well, they all
Tim
failed.
Story.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'd just be funny if just like you see like them die instantly on camera, like they come through the portal. And
are you talking about like the Power Ranger Doctor Doom from the last Fantastic Four? The
Toby Kibble one, yeah. Okay, so it's past his wife's bedtime. Okay,
That's why the meme fits. I'm telling you, she's
No,
laying
it's
over there. Things are over, and
Hey,
David's
hey,
over there
hey,
on his
hey.
phone. Okay.
but
Good job,
yeah,
Dave.
last call.
Yeah.
we love you, David. Yeah. So to get back to Miguel's question, I hope that Killmonger isn't gone. In fact, again, if there's any way to do this stuff with a multiverse, because Michael B. Jordan is still very much with this, if we can see and you guys already know this because you've heard at least in the trailers where they're doing with Spider-Man and the whole kind of multiverse thing, they can bring back Killmonger or open up a portal where he's not dead.
He's your Dark Beast from Age of Apocalypse. He's the bad version of a character we know that comes back. When the timeline collapses, that'd be fun.
Yeah, and I did like the symmetry, the poetry, as George Lucas would say, of seeing Killmonger looking at the Wakandan sunrise, which is something that he kind of did in his last moments at the end of Black Panther.
It's a delicious drink too. Have you ever had a Wakandan sunrise? Oh my gosh!
Is that a real thing?
No,
it should be.
Yeah.
Now
It could make a purple drink at a bar. That's a Wakanda thing.
There you go, folks.
I heard the blue milk though at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, isn't that right?
There you go. Make a Marvel themed bar where all the drinks are based off of movies or characters.
Piece of cake.
Here's the thing for next week. In the comments, I want everyone to leave their recipe for a Wakandan sunrise. The winner, as judged by us, by our panel of expert alcoholics, will win a Stan Lee No Prize on next week's episode.
Correct.
The winner.
Correct.
Yeah.
They'll raise a
try
glass
every
clink.
single product, and then we'll start rolling.
Miguel says, I've thought that at the end of Black Panther, Killmonger is saved by T'Challa and rehabilitated like the Winter Soldier.
That would
I'm
be
pretty
nice.
sure
he's DED dead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gone. That was the weird thing because like when I saw Endgame it was what was the one before Endgame?
Infinity War.
Infinity War, where Thanos goes and sits down and watches the sunrise. I'm like, they just did this at the end of Black. I saw this a year ago, but that's just me. Max Landis directed the last one.
No way. He can't get work right now. He's radioactive. Did he really? I'm going to. You got the IMDb open.
No, he didn't direct this one. That
directed the zombie one.
I don't know.
Direct the zombie one. That's a nugget. That's a week late. Let's see what we got here.
Wow.
All right, I'll race you. You keep hosting the show.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still trying to process that, but
yeah.
No, I was just watching some stuff about the Twilight Zone movie and his dad John Landis and that whole horrifying situation. So, but anyway, do we have any final thoughts on this episode? Because I think we've kind of talked it to death, but I'm happy to keep the floor open.
Final thoughts for me are I like. Same as I said in the opening. I think it's nowhere near the emotional one that the Doctor Strange episode was two episodes ago. But this I'll give credit for being the most intellectual episode we've had, where like this really does take like I don't want to say that the Pepe Sylvia flowchart of ideas that comes out of It's Sunny in Philadelphia, but you need like somebody had to sit down and like really write this out long form of like, if Killmonger really did do this, how far would it go? And can we go that far and get it in a half an hour? I tip my hat to this one being one of the smarter episodes we've had. A lot of the other ones are just kind of that fanboy idea, like which is still fun too. Like, kids with action figures in a bar maybe not in bar, but like kids with action figures going, what if this or that? But this one got like kind of like the Doctor Strange episode, but not as emotional. This one got heady, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, well said. I'm there with you 100%. Aside from, like, I think, yeah, again, you lop off the last 3 minutes with Ross, and then the plan to save everything. I think you've got something really special. Mike, anything to close out?
Which one? Either
one.
Yeah. I like how it shows the consequences of Killmonger's actions and how far he could. There's really nothing I could say of substance beyond what anyone else has said, because maybe I'm just getting tired or I'm an idiot. But either way, I'm glad that it gave you more to think about. And it makes you kind of quite like, although Killmonger's a bad guy, you're still kind of like, yeah, but is he kind of right? So you connect that with Black Panther with this one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, David, now I do feel like an idiot, but I also don't feel like an idiot because you weren't here to point this out in real time. Just like a few minutes ago, David. Fantastic Four, guys. Geez, that's the one Max Landis directed, not a What If. He's talking about the Fantastic Four movie.
Okay.
Oh,
because I'm digging in IMDb, and he's got nothing in the last 2-3 years here. So okay,
yeah. I remember seeing that at I think a press screening. That was a special afternoon. Yeah,
that was before the Josh Trank one.
Yeah, this is 2016, I think. That was the year that everything great happened. But anyway,
the 2015 one was
didn't direct
directed
that
by
one either.
Josh Trank.
Yeah,
Josh Trank.
The Chronicle team,
Trank, right?
He didn't write it either, though. Like Landis, let me see.
Landis didn't have anything, according to IMDb, anyway.
No, he's not on the writing team for Fantastic Four either. That's
unless they removed his name, they may have.
They might have, yeah.
Well, I mean, Trank has been on the record a lot to say that the studio, Zack Snyder style, really butchered that movie.
That's
that's weird, because for a moment I really did misremember that Max Landis had directed that movie. That sounded so right, but I guess Trank and Landis are there you go. They could take that show on the road, but problematic young Hollywood. Anyway, let's see. Hold on. One more thing from David. Wasn't really buying the Queen General, considering we've never seen her exert this much previously in the MCU. Well, again, they're.
Animation. Angela Bassett is a bad hit. Let's just go there, right? Yeah.
Well, it's here's the thing though. It's a what if. So I mean, you get the impression. I mean, they talk about they're at war, so they've been battling for quite some time. So this is just a different queen than what we had in the movie verse, because
8 years younger too, like we said before.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the way I got, because in all honesty, with this one, when we finally meet the Wakandans, they're more orientated towards war than when we were introduced to them in Black Panther. Because by the time Killmonger gets to them, they've been at war with, various forces for some time now. Not a whole lot of time, but still, they've been gearing themselves for battle and for war. So it's a different Wakanda in general. With this, so it didn't surprise me too much with it, just because it's a what if, it's an alternate universe. I mean, it's Marvel's get out of jail free card. Let's put it that way. Let's retcon whatever we want, because multiverse. I mean, they do it in the comics, and I had the same problem whether it was DC or Marvel. I had the same problem with that too. We got a multiverse. I'm like, well. That's just
do one universe right. Universe right.
It's just like sci-fi. It's like, if you really want to retcon something, Star Trek did it to ad nauseum. We'll just do time travel, because we could just reset everything.
I know.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Miguel, who I don't know if he's left already, because he said till the next one. So yeah, please come back next week and hang out. He said, gotta say, I enjoyed this. Thank you. Lots better than watching Fantasy Island with the wife. Laugh out loud.
Oh.
Yes, I would imagine that anything is better than watching Fantasy Island with my wife, unless, of course, that's what David was doing earlier.
Unless it's the original Ricardo Montalban Fantasy Island.
That's what he's doing right there.
So David, he mixed up Max Landis, because he was Josh Tanked.
Yay!
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
Yes. But no, we love you, David. And I love you too, Miguel. It's been a long time since we've actually seen each other outside of Facebook.
There we go.
But gang, I'm going to let everybody go because we have officially talked longer than the episode we are discussing. But it's been a great chat, and I appreciate you all. I love you all. I am, as always, Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat. We have Mark the Movie Man from Special Mark Productions, Don Shanahan from Everything, Mike Crowley from Everything Plus 25YL and YPA Reviews. And yeah, join us back next Wednesday. Marvel, it's really impossible to make teaser thumbnails for this series because they don't tell you what the next episode is going to be until it frickin' drops. So yeah,
I kind of dig that because then we're not, you know, because if they told us a clue, we would start digging in the books like, oh, what's it going to be then? Like we'd be scanning comics all week.
I know. I would just be making thumbnails confidently.
I know.
Unlike the last week when I made a Thor thing that was up for like 4 days and it's like, this has nothing to do with Thor. Wait, hold on a second.
Oh yeah.
No.
Battling who though? Besides other Wakanda regions, they are a hidden nation.
Oh no, they battle within, right? It's all the little regions of Wakanda, like Magobu's, the monkey tribe, and then the rhino people, like right. They in Civil War is going on, right?
I vaguely remember that being a thing, yeah, because they had to kind of unite at the end of Black Panther.
Right.
That's right.
But I also gathered from the dialogue they made it sound like that they were in this episode. They made it seem like they were at war with more than just, you know, they were warring, but nobody knew where the actual home capital of Wakanda was. It was like they may have been going out from their shield to fight. I mean, that's the impression I got from this episode, was that the Wakandans they mentioned a number of times we're at war already, even though we didn't really see it on, you know, camera much. So they talk about it. So
yeah, it's a mystery. It may be to be solved in a future episode of What If. What if we knew who the hell the Wakandans were fighting? So yeah, David commented, this is the episode with the most comments. And Don, that's because you're here.
Oh, what?
Did you just give us the middle finger with your phone? That's
no.
Magic. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. All right. Well, gang, thank you very much. Thank you for watching and joining in. If you like this content, this episode, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and support my lovely and talented Earth's Mightiest Critics. All their information will be below. And yeah, join us back next week where we'll be talking about What If. We talked about What If. Later, dudes, indeed, David. And until then, I will say, everybody,